Just as the St. Louis's was the basis for the Clevelands, so too was Wichita the basis for the Baltimores. Finally freed from the artificial limit of the treaties, these ships were allowed to jump in dimensions and weight. Displacement went up about 40% from 10,700 tons in Wichita to almost 14,500 tons. They were essentially an 8-inch version of the Clevelands. Several were completed right at the end of the war or converted post-war. Baltimore was started May 26, 1941, and finished April 15, 1943. Boston was started June 30, 1941, and finished June 30, 1943. Canberra, ex-Pittsburgh, was started September 3, 1941, and finished October 13, 1943. Quincy, ex-St. Paul, was started October 9, 1941, and finished December 15, 1943. Pittsburgh, ex-Albany, was started February 3, 1943, and finished October 10, 1944. St. Paul, ex-Rochester, was also started February 3, 1943, and finished February 17, 1945. Columbus was started June 28, 1943, and finished June 8, 1945. Helena, ex-Des Moines, was started September 9, 1943, and finished September 4, 1945. Bremerton was started February 1, 1943, and finished April 29, 1945. Fall River was started April 12, 1943, and finished July 1, 1945. Macon was started June 14, 1943, and finished August 26, 1945. Toledo was started September 13, 1943, and finished October 27, 1946. Los Angeles was started July 28, 1943, and finished July 22, 1945. Chicago was also started July 28, 1943, and finished January 10, 1945. Armament was again 9 8-inch 55 caliber guns in 3 triple turrets, 2 forward and 1 aft. Unlike previous heavy cruisers, these could fire the new 335-pound super heavy shell. Like Wichita, the barrels could raise and lower independent of each other in a turret. Secondary armament was the same as the Clevelands, 12 5-inch 38 caliber dual-purpose guns in 6 twin turrets, 1 over turret 2, 1 over turret 3. The remaining 4 were midship with 2 on either side. Light and medium anti-aircraft, along with radar, were constantly upgraded throughout the war. Up to 4 aircraft could be carried at the stern, 1 on each of the 2 catapults and 2 in the below-deck hangar. For armor, they carried up to 6 inches of side armor. Deck armor was up to 2.5 inches. Barbette armor was up to 6 1/3 inches. Turret armor was up to 8 inches. For propulsion, they used 4 boilers on the unit principal. The rear pair was placed between the 2 engine rooms. This generated 120,000 horsepower to 4 shafts, making a top speed of 33 knots. Baltimore joined the Pacific Fleet soon after entering service and spent the war escorting carriers and providing fire support. Her only detour was from July 1944 to August 1944. She carried President Roosevelt first to Hawaii to meet with Nimitz and MacArthur, and then to Alaska, where he would head to the Octagon Conference. This service caused her to miss the Battle of Leyte Gulf. Boston joined the Pacific Fleet in early December 1943. She spent the rest of the war providing fire support and escorting carriers. Canberra joined the Pacific Fleet in early February 1944, escorting the carriers and providing fire support. Off the coast of Taiwan, on October 13, 1944, she was hit by an aircraft torpedo in the engine room. The damage was so severe that the ship was nearly sunk and had to be towed. She would be under repair for the rest of the war. Quincy joined the Atlantic Fleet in late March 1945. After taking part in the Normandy and southern France invasion, she joined the Pacific Fleet in mid-March 1945. She spent the rest of the war escorting the carriers and providing fire support. Pittsburgh joined the Pacific Fleet in mid-February 1945, providing fire support and escorting the carriers, most notably the heavily damaged Franklin. On June 5, 1945, her bow was ripped off in a typhoon. Eventually reaching the west coast, she would still be under repair when the war ended. St. Paul joined the Pacific Fleet in early June 1945. She spent the rest of the war escorting the carriers and providing fire support. Columbus joined the Pacific Fleet just as the war was ending. Helena joined the Atlantic Fleet right after the end of World War II. Bremerton joined the Atlantic Fleet right at the end of World War II. Fall River joined the Atlantic Fleet right at the end of World War II. Macon joined the Atlantic Fleet right at the end of World War II. Toledo was commissioned well after World War II. Los Angeles joined the Atlantic Fleet right at the end of World War II. Chicago joined the Atlantic Fleet in mid-February 1945. She joined the Pacific Fleet in late May 1945. She spent the rest of the war screening the carriers and providing fire support.